What's the absolute worst thread? We don't talk brands, by the way, just types. What's the worst thread to use? What causes more headaches, more frustration than any other type of thread? Metallic. What a pain that is. How many have given up on metallic? How many keep it in your stash? Why? If it didn't work yesterday, it didn't work last week, it didn't work last month, maybe today's the day. You put it on your machine and it's the same old frustration over and over and over, right? 20 seconds, I can fix that. Guaranteed. If you have a metallic thread that comes off the spool and twists up like a tangled up, twisted telephone cord, that's a bad one. Here's a sample right off the spool. Watch what happens. I'm going to walk down the aisle and everyone can have a close-up view and watch what happens. If it comes off the spool twisting, guess what happens as it goes along the thread path? Imagine a twisted up thread like this going through the tension disc. What would the tension disc do to it? What would happen if it's twisted up by the time it hits the needle? Is there any wonder why metallic thread gives us so many headaches? Here's what a metallic thread should do. It should come off the spool and hang nice and smooth. It doesn't twist up like the telephone cord. As this goes along the thread path, it will maintain its smoothness, untwisted. It will go through the tension disc without any problem. By the time it hits the needle, you're not twisted up. It is all in the quality of the metallic thread. Remember 1984? The world's second gas crisis? This car came from Yugoslavia that was going to solve the world's gas crisis. Remember the Yugo? You seen the Yugos anymore? This is a Yugo. If you have a Yugo, how many have Yugos at home? If you have a Yugo and you put the best gasoline brand into your Yugo, if you put the best oil in your Yugo, you put the best purified water in the radiator, I'm a guy, I talk cars. If you put the best air in the Yugo's tires, do you have a Ferrari? No. You still have a Yugo. There's a lot of products on the market to try to turn a Yugo into a Rolls Royce. Have you heard of use silicone gel on your metallic thread? A little bit is okay, a lot is bad, but not necessary. You shouldn't really need it. Have you heard to keep your metallic thread in a Ziploc bag? If you haven't heard it, you will. That rumor's coming. Have you heard you spray your metallic with water? Have you heard their freezer trick? None of those are necessary. Have you heard to put your metallic 20 feet across the room so by the time it comes to your machine, all the kinks are wound out? There are so many things people do to try to make a Yugo run, it's kind of silly. A Rolls Royce, you don't need any of those. If you start with a Rolls Royce, you'll have a Rolls Royce. Now, here's the good news. If you do the math on a Yugo and on a Rolls Royce of metallic thread, yard for yard, you're going to pay the same price. The difference is you cannot buy a Rolls Royce in a subcompact model. You can't buy a Rolls Royce in a 150-yard spool of thread. By the time they put the effort into making a Rolls Royce, they're going to make it good enough, they're going to wind enough on a spool to make it worth their while. Yugos will come on a 150, 200, 300-yard spool. If you buy a Rolls Royce on a smaller spool, 500-yard or 1,000-yard, medium-sized spool, yard for yard, you're paying the same as you do for an inexpensive, smaller spool of a Yugo. It makes a lot of sense to buy a Rolls Royce. How many have Yugos at home? What are we going to do with them? Yeah, throw them away. I hear that every day. If you would throw them away, how many have grandma's thread in the stash? Yeah, we're not going to throw it away. Here's what you do. Every year, I'm sure the Guild has a anonymous Christmas exchange. Merry Christmas, get rid of your Yugos. There's really no way that you're going to have success if you have a Yugo. I know it hurts to throw them away. Here's a couple ideas you can do if you don't want to give them to that other lady in the Guild who rubs you the wrong way. You can use them in the bobbin. It doesn't go through the tension disc. It doesn't go through the needle. It makes a fantastic bobbin thread. Or if you do, have you seen the thread art the thread scarves, the thread shawls. They will take a water-soluble fabric and they'll put a ton of thread on it. We love people who do this. Use a ton of thread on it, and then they stitch over, and then they dissolve away the water-soluble fabric, and you're left with just thread artwork. Thread scarf, thread shawl. Use it in there. Just lay it down and then stitch over it with a thread that works. There are uses for your Yugo. You are now pros as far as metallic thread is concerned. It doesn't even matter the brand name as long as it's a Rolls-Royce. Just know that there is metallic thread that works wonderfully in any machine. We have yet to find a machine in good working condition that we cannot put this spool of metallic thread on and run successfully. Guaranteed it will work.